Welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. Good to have you with me on this Wednesday morning as we come to the middle of the week, just a couple of weeks away until Christmas time. And don't know if you've got your Christmas presents ready or not. I know that doesn't seem quite like Christmas yet to us. My wife and I, we've been talking about that, but it's okay. It's Christmas time. And today here, going to be a nice sunny day. And I hope that you're doing well. And welcome to our Pastor's Podcast today on this Wednesday morning. Good to have you with me. Now, church, Maranatha Baptist Church, let's be faithful tonight to the services tonight. Of course, doing the series on the end times, and we're doing that. We're past the rapture, and we're going to dwell a little bit in the next couple of weeks on what's happening above the tribulation period while we are up in heaven. Going to talk about that here tonight. One of those things that's going to happen. And so we're going to deal with that just a little bit tonight. You're not going to want to miss it. So I'd encourage you to be here and then bring somebody with you. How about doing that? That's always a good thing. Even on Wednesday nights, we can still have people saved. We can still have people get baptized. And so if we're in church and we're faithful, we bring somebody, people can't get saved if they're not there. So you bring somebody to church tonight. Let's see what God can't do about us trying to fill the church house. And that's what God desires. I pray for that all the time. God, fill your house. We're working at it, but we need your help. And that's what you've got to do as you go forward in this area of the Lord's will. Well, today, let's talk about the secret to avoiding compromise. In 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, the scripture says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together." Boy, we could just stop right there. "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers." So God talks about not to be unequally yoked, and then he tells with who? With unbelievers. "For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?" Being unequally yoked, my friend, is still a sin today. I know we've heard about it in the years gone by, and a lot of people try to live today as if nothing's going on today. It's still going on today, and it's still wrong today. Many have forsaken God's command of separation only to compromise what they once were for the so-called better good. And one of the greatest achievements any believer will accomplish is not to change for the worse. Everyone, we all change. I don't care who you are, we all change. We either change for good or for the worse. Nobody is the same today as they were 5 years ago. So the question is, which direction is our change taking us? And that's critical right there. Because to say, well, I'm not changing. No, you are changing. You're changing for good or bad. To say you're not changing means you're doing nothing, which means you're changing for bad. God gives us 5 areas we must watch to avoid the directional change for the worse. First, we must guard our friendships. So God asked, "For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness?" So the word fellowship is talking about friendship. God uses righteousness and unrighteousness as an illustration because these cannot be friends and stay the same. You can't. The friends you choose will determine whether you head toward righteous living or towards unrighteous living. You cannot have the wrong friends and be what God commanded you to be by living a righteous life. Second, we must guard our fellowship. God continued to ask, "And what communion hath light with darkness?" So light and darkness have no fellowship because when light appears, darkness flees. So there's no fellowship between light and darkness. Light, you have to understand, the believer must be careful about fellowshipping with people who do not believe like that. You cannot fellowship with those who do wrong, get this now, without getting their stink on your life. Nobody is strong enough, and boy, this is critical. Nobody is strong enough to handle the wrong fellowship. Solomon thought he was. Boy, it messed him up when he got old. If you, I think Jehoshaphat, he couldn't get away from Ahab, and boy, it messed him up and his children up. If you're willing to fellowship with a crowd, especially during a church service, you'll be willing to change for that same crowd. As my preacher taught me years ago, he said, "The wrong crowd," Brother Howes, he was my pastor, he used to say, "The wrong crowd's too nice for me not to like. So don't fellowship with them." I'm afraid that too many are fellowshipping with the wrong crowd. A lot of preachers are fellowshipping with preachers from the wrong crowd. You say, "But they're nice." That's not the point. Light, darkness, light, darkness. Fellowship does determine what I do in life. Fellowship determines whether I'm going to be light or dark. Third, we must guard our personal relationships. God asks again, and what concord hath Christ with Belial? Christ and Belial have no personal relationship, and neither should the believer join in relationship with people who do not believe like that. Don't go into business with them. Don't you don't go into business with people who don't believe like you, and don't date someone or marry someone who does not believe. Don't enter relationships. The weaker person always drags a stronger person down in relationships. And I know we don't think that's the truth, but it always happens. If you don't want to change, don't have a personal relationship with someone who does not believe right. So I've got to be careful that any relationship I enter into, that relationship means a bond, a contract, or something like that. Then let's be careful that that's with righteous. Fourth, we must guard on contributions to a cause. Now I know that sounds strange, but God continues to ask, "And what part hath he that believeth with an infidel?" Any part you give the wrong crowd, even if it's good, always leads to compromise. The uncompromising believer has no similarities or goals of the world. So they may seem the same, but what seems the same actually takes us the wrong way. So be careful about being in the same speaking conference with those who have compromised or don't believe like you. Your part in a conference says you're willing to turn a blind eye to their compromise or wrong doctrine. So we've got to guard on the contributions to a cause. And I'm not talking giving now, money. I'm talking about me being in a conference that contributes to that cause. If a conference does not believe in me, why are you going there? If you're going to a place, listen to me, and whatever your excuse is of why you go to that conference is not good enough. You're going and you're contributing to their cause. Fifth, we must guard against laying aside doctrinal differences just to get along. God asked, what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? The greater good is not a good reason to compromise what God commands us to do. If you're willing to compromise for the greater good, you'll always have a reason to compromise. The change to compromise never stops once you start that movement, my friend. Once you start taking the wrong position. Let me give you an illustration. Years ago, I had a preacher friend of mine who wanted me to. I was preaching at his church, I was doing a revival meeting, and on that Sunday afternoon, all the churches in the city were gonna try to surround that city, hold hands around the city against the cause of abortion. Now I'm against abortion. I believe it's murder. I don't call it abortion. I just call it murder. Now, but get this now, but because he wanted me to go hold hands with people that didn't believe in the virgin birth, people that believed in work salvation, I wouldn't do that. You say, why? Because they didn't believe like me. We are doctrinal differences. I am not to get this now. I am not to make agreement with the temple with idols. A lot of, and let me just go this step further. And I know I'm going to curl a few hairs on this one, but I'm tired of these preachers who are yoking up with everybody for the sake of politics. And I'm talking guys in our circle. And you say, are you talking about me? If you think I am, I probably am. Because I'm tired of our guys yoking up with unbelievers, going on the platform with these guys, going to prayer meetings with these guys when there's other people on that same platform that believe differently, and you're yoking up. You've made an agreement. Get this now with idols. You've changed, you've compromised for the greater good. But we got to get this guy elected. I got news for you. God can get him elected without me compromising. God sets up, God takes down. And I think that we need to tell people and inform people and teach the word of God and tell them they have a responsibility to do right. But at the end of the day, I'm not to hold hands with people, and I'm not to get this now. I'm not to lay aside doctrinal differences just to get along so that we can get the greater good going. Get this now. That greater good is going to become the greater bad if we're not careful. I've watched a lot of guys get caught up in politics, and I know I'm being unpopular right now, but it's about time some people start waking up. I'm 56 years of age. I've watched the song and dance before. I remember the moral majority years ago. Guys yoked up, and boy, a lot of guys compromised, and it's happening again today. Now, compromise. Get this now. Doesn't matter how it happens. It's going to happen. So I've got to watch my friendships. Be careful that all my friendships are right. Constantly do inventory of your friendships. I've got to guard my fellowship. communion with light and darkness. I got to make sure that I don't fellowship with people. You say, what are you talking about? I'm talking about getting with people that okay, going to out to eat with people from the job and watching them drink their liquor as you sit there and say, well, I'm not drinking it. Yeah, but you're there. Don't fellowship. If you're willing to fellowship with the wrong crowd, you'll get out of church. Guard your personal relationships, my friend. We have no business getting into a yoke, into a bond with somebody that does not believe like we do. Don't yoke up with that. Guard your what you contribute to, the conferences you go to, and then guard against laying aside personal differences. Oh, my friend, many a person has done this, and it really has hurt the cause. I'm not trying to be mean, not trying to be ugly, but I'll be honest with you. We've got to get some people today that understand. Um, 2 Corinthians 6:14 is still in the Bible. Be not unequally yoked. Let's stay yoked up with who we're supposed to be. Let God worry about the rest. God will take care of the rest. We just do what's right, and God will bless us, and you'll stay right to the end of your life. Well, I hope this is a great help to you today. Now, let's remember today and throughout the week, be good to everyone. Everyone's having a tough time. Have a great day, my friend.